Greetings, people of Earth. Welcome back. My name is Jax, and today we can't be friends. I've talked about this before. I have discussed the idea of getting rid of friends that aren't really your friends and evaluating your relationships on a basis of, do these people make my life better, or am I keeping them for some sentimental reason? The same way that you keep a drawer of keepsakes, is it really worth it? You have to do that mental mathematics yourself. Basically, sometimes we hold on to friends and people do change, and sometimes it's not always for the best. So you really have to decide, is this person in my life who is causing a lot of difficulty or drama or like just heartache and worry, is this person someone that I would like to keep having in my life? And sometimes that mental mathematics equals like a negative number. Like, this person is more trouble than they are worth. There is a lot to be said for sticking with your friends, not giving up, keeping these people who've known you for a long time in your life. But there's also a lot to be said for removing the people that are just making your hair go gray and the people that are causing a lot more harm in your life than they cause good and joy. I think a lot of people pleasers really struggle with this idea. I think a lot of you guys probably struggle with this concept that basically we don't want to let someone down. We don't want to hurt someone's feelings or make them feel like, oh, this person doesn't like me, this person hates me. Because sometimes it's not a case of hating the person. And I would say actually often, and most of the time, it's not a case of, oh, I hate this person, I want them out of my life. Most of the time it's, this person causes a lot of difficulty, and every time I'm around them, they make me feel like a bad person, like I'm not good enough. They put me down. They think maybe they're being funny, but they're actually just being really mean. And it's something that I think we all struggle with and we all have a difficult time with. I don't want to limit this to just friendships. I think there is a lot to be said for cutting out the family members that we just don't agree with. I happen to come from two families on my mom and dad's sides that I would say are pretty well-rounded. They're pretty honest, hardworking people. And even in the situation I find myself in, there are members of my extended family that I am not interested in having a relationship with. And I'm okay saying that. There are people who, growing up, caused nothing but difficulty and stress and making me feel as though I wasn't good enough. And as a result, I don't see these people. I don't go to the family gatherings that these people go to. I don't associate with them. I don't talk to them. I just avoid them. And, because you're family, you do occasionally run into them, or you hear through the grapevine about what's going on, but you don't actually have to open up your life to be subjected to negativity or difficulty or even abuse. So if you can do it with family, you can absolutely do it with friends, because friendships don't tend to have as strong ties to people as family, Like, if you're always connected to your grandmother, it's much harder to get away from like a jerk cousin or, a crazy aunt or uncle or whatever. However, when it's a friendship, it's much easier to basically just say, bye-bye, I'm not interested. And the person might take it really hard. Like, your friend might take your friendship breakup in a very hard way. And I just advocate for being very communicative, explaining, I'm sorry, this is not the way I want it to go. I don't want this friendship to be like this. and you will almost always have a lot of pushback. You'll have a lot of blame game criticism. You'll have the person pleading or trying to negotiate. And that, I think, is the hardest part for a people pleaser like myself. It is so difficult to really like be firm and say, no, you know what? We are not good for each other. We are not good. We should not be in a friendship together. This doesn't work for either of us. And it is so hard when they're like, no, but like, what about this? And we have so much history together and blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, if you cannot be friends with somebody and you know you cannot be friends with somebody, cut it off. It's like a bad relationship. When you know it's not going the way you want it to, when you know it's not going in the direction that is healthy and that is supportive and that is, at the end of the day, comforting, when you know it's not that, you have a responsibility to yourself to get rid of them. I've shared before a story about when I just started college and you get put into like an orientation thing with a bunch of other people. And I made instant friends with this one girl. And I thought, oh my gosh, like this is exactly what I've been told my whole life, that when you go to university, you meet like-minded people and these people are your friends for life. I really thought that this girl was that, you know, I'd found my forever friendship from university. We really hit it off. And the first month was so fun. Like we hung out all the time. We studied together. We went to all the events. I joined a frat. She joined a sorority. We thought like, gosh, this is so perfect. As the months went on, I realized that this girl was basically in university to party, experiment, get wild. And I don't necessarily judge someone for doing all of that. I think college is a good place to be doing a lot of that. However, this girl took it to the extreme, to say the least. And the number of times that I basically had to step in to make sure that she like got home at night or she was okay. It got to the point where I was like worried I was gonna find her, you know, not breathing at some point. And so I had to message her and we went for coffee and I just explained like, I'm sorry, but we can't be friends, you know, just like the Ariana Grande song, we can't be friends. This is not good. It's stressing me out. It's putting my own safety in crazy situations that I didn't feel comfortable with. And of course, she took it very hard. She tried to explain away why she was doing the things she was doing and how much fun we've had and how we're so similar. But at the end, I remember walking out of that feeling so, it sounds dumb, but feeling so liberated and so free because I knew I wasn't connected to this person anymore. And although it kind of sucks because you've put so much energy into a friendship, it was so nice to feel as though, man, like I can actually control the situations around me a little bit. You know, I actually have some agency in these situations. And I think that feeling is something that you should really hold on to, especially while you are breaking up with a friend or you're getting rid of a friend, because man alive, it is hard to have that conversation. And I don't envy anyone who has to. The final thing I want to say on this idea of, you know, getting rid of a friend that is not a friend anymore is you are absolutely allowed to change your mind. They are allowed to change their mind. You are allowed to hear them out and try and come to a amicable agreement in some ways. So for example, I've had some friends I've known forever, and every now and then they have gone through a situation or a difficult time in their life, or, you know, they want to have a crazy phase or whatever. And in those moments where our friendship is really being tested, I have no problem in stopping the whole situation, putting everything on pause and sitting them down and saying, hey, I love you. You are one of my best friends. We have so much fun together, but what's been going on for the last week, month, year, whatever it is so unacceptable, and it's crazy to me, and I'm not trying to sound like a prude or some holy little child of God, but it is causing me anxiety and stress, and our relationship is under a lot of strain. You might not know that our relationship is under a lot of strain, because oftentimes these friends don't know this. And there's nothing wrong with talking to someone and saying like, hey, you're freaking me out. Can we just chill for like 5 minutes? Is this okay? And oftentimes that's a really important part of friendship in general, is telling your friends when they've gone too far, or, pulling them back off the metaphorical ledge. That is kind of a key to friendship. And as people pleasers, I think we tend to ignore this, and we tend to say, well, it's not my place to say it, or I don't want to come off as judgy or mean or whatever. That's the whole point of friendship, is to make sure that you all get to the end of the line. Wherever the end of the line is, you make sure you get there intact. And so saying to your friends, like shaking your friends one day and being like, snap out of it, you're crazy, like he's just a man, like get over him. There is nothing wrong with doing that. That is a friendship thing. But you also have to know when your limits are. And that is the important distinction. That is the important part to know, is at what point can you, slap your friend in the face and be like, snap out of it? And at what point do you have to say, you know what, this has gone way too far. I can't continue with this friendship. I don't have fun. I don't feel like I'm loved by this person. I feel like I'm being used by this person, X, Y, Z. So there's nothing wrong with changing the situation. And finally, there is nothing wrong with taking a pause or getting some space. I can do this relatively easily with my friends because I don't live in the same area. Like I live in a remote part of the world, and my friends all live in big cities around the world. So it's really easy to put my friendships on pause. And I have cultivated friendships that primarily involve one or both of us meeting in the middle. And so a lot of my friendships are the type where you don't see somebody for months and weeks at a time, and then when you see each other, it's like no time has passed. I've cultivated that because frankly, like living on a farm in the middle of nowhere is like, it's essential to do that. However, even if you live in the same city or on the same street as your friend, it is still possible just to have some space and to focus on what you're doing and let the person go off and do their thing. There's nothing wrong with that. And that kind of comes to the idea of like, don't burn bridges you don't have to. If a bridge has to be burned, like if you never want to cross it again, that's fine. But anyway, talk to you guys later.